If you listen to the show, you already know that we cannot exist without our sponsors. They are the ones who make things happen behind the scenes. So let's acknowledge Fuji Sports. We've been working with these guys for a while now, not only as far as this podcast is concerned, but also at the RŌL Academy. We've had their gear. I personally use their gis. What a phenomenal product.
Yeah, I mean, jiu-jitsu, judo, MMA, tape, bags, anything you need for your jiu-jitsu journey, you can find at fujisports.com.
Let's talk RŌL TV. There's so much content on there. It's ridiculous at this point. But I think what is even more intriguing, as time went on during the project, we've been recording most of the events that were taking place here at RŌL Academy. At this point, I mean, we have guys like Chris Howder, Armin Fati, Rafael Lovato Sr., and Pete the Greek. I mean, there are so many different events that we've kind of recorded it. Don't you think that's amazing? I mean, points of reflection and kind of going back for all the students to see what really happened and refresh their memory.
Yeah, I think it's great, you know, being able to go back and look at all these high-level practitioners, Octavio Kudo, like one of the names you didn't mention. And I mean, just these guys that have been doing this for so long come in, teach these amazing seminars and workshops, and it's all recorded and there for you to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you want to get additional savings on all this, type in code RŌL Radio at the coupon and get additional 30% off of your membership.
Nice. Go to rolacademy.tv. What's up, everyone, and welcome back. If you haven't already, please remember to hit the like, share, subscribe, download, listen, and whatever other button there is, and leave us a review wherever you do listen. That ensures that we can continue bringing you the great guests and amazing content you have come to expect. The RŌL Radio's quest to get all of the BJJ Dirty Dozen on the podcast continues with Rigan Machado's first American black belt, Bob Bass. Bob first began his training with Rickson Gracie and then became hugely influential under Rigan Machado. On this episode, Bob describes the early days of training with the Gracies and Machados, his influence on Rigan when Rigan opened his first academy in the United States, his legendary matches against the best in the world, and a ton more. Here's the RŌL Radio with Dirty Dozen member, 6th degree black belt, and owner of South Bay Jiu-Jitsu Academy, Bob Bass.
Welcome to RŌL Radio.
And we are live.
Here we go.
All right, before we start this, we lost a big jiu-jitsu personality this week. As this is recording on August 28th, last week we lost Professor Octavio.
Yep.
What a big tragedy. And you and I, we had the opportunity to meet him just a couple years ago. He was here at RŌL Academy doing a seminar. Yeah, that's a big one, isn't it?
Yeah, it's super sad. And, I was pretty shocked when I saw it because he was he was the same age as me, but it was a freak accident. And he was such a great guy, great personality, loved life, was everywhere, traveling constantly. Excuse me. And when he was here, we had a great seminar, and then I took a private from him, and he taught me a lot. And what was great about him is his seminars and his lessons were always not just about jiu-jitsu. There was always something about life in there too. So.
Yeah, it's we often talk. You and I, we often talk about this, like these conversations on this show. We do them to really document these events, document these individuals, document these guests. It is unfortunate that, that was the last time we had an opportunity to talk to him. And if you didn't have a chance to listen to that, I encourage you to do, because he was in Italy that day when we recorded this. We recorded this overseas. And just talking to him was quite phenomenal. I just looked it up. It's episode 49, so it's one of the beginning ones. A couple of years ago, we did that at the beginning of the show. So tune in if so you desire.
All right.
Well, listen, another big one today.
Yeah.
This week, right? I said this a while back, but like I'm on the personal mission to get the Dirty Dozen.
Yep. We're almost halfway there.
Yeah, so we are halfway there, right? So, sir, how are you? Bob Bass with us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm sorry to hear about another jiu-jitsu brother loss. I want to know how old was he and what happened?
That freak accident. He was in Italy, and what I understand, it was a accidental fall, and then the impact was just too great, and unfortunately, it ended at that point. So I don't think there's many details at this point of time.
No, because it just happened. Yeah,
it just kind of fall. On the mat?
No, he was
the outside.
It was my understanding. It was after a wedding. He was sitting on a wall at the ocean and fell off the wall. And not very high, but unfortunately, it seems like he hit his head on the way down. He was only 52, so a very young man still, and he's going to be missed. If he just a great guy. Yeah. Really was a great guy.
Yeah,
so.
No, absolutely.
I think I seen that on Facebook or something. Seen his passing the other day.
Yeah, it's been it's been floating all over everywhere. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, actually. Sunny Southern California. I'm here in Redondo Beach. I grew up in Manhattan Beach, actually, and I'm loving life, actually.
I got to ask you, right off the bat, I an ask you. I mean, you are the member of Dirty Dozen, and, for those who don't know, I mean, that essentially means a first American black belt, one of the first American black belts.
I am the first.
Does that sink in your mind? I mean, does that carry weight in your mind, or is it more just part of your life and you just treat it as just another day?
Well, I remember when they had there was a magazine, and they had the Dirty Dozen, and we had us fill out a form, about our philosophies and all the other stuff and above. And it was just happy to be on the magazine and stuff. And then, I didn't pay much mind to it for a long time, but then it started hearing about the Dirty Dozen. I started hearing about this, and, it's kind of like, I started seeing I don't really watch that kind of stuff. I'm not really big on, the fame and all that stuff. I kind of like just surfing and training jiu-jitsu. That's me, what I mean? But I started seeing people like, the Dirty Dozen, like, this guy was first, and that was like with the Gracies, this and that. No, the Dirty Dozen was with the Machados. Okay, that's what I seen. And, so when it came to it, I was Rigan Machado's first black belt, and all the stuff behind it. Then Rick Williams and other people started coming in, Dave Myers and all that kind of stuff was there. And now, it's kind of to me, it's kind of like a bottle of wine. You know what I mean? As I get older, it gets better. That's how I'm seeing it.
You just sit back and enjoy the view, essentially.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But part of this whole thing is the simple fact of you being on the mat for extensive period of time. And with that comes piece of history, but also experience and some philosophies that you have compiled over your own extensive period of time. What is the one thing that strikes you the most from those early days to today's as far as the change in jiu-jitsu?
Well, what I see, I kind of look at it like, when I first started, it was kind of like a part of the hourglass, kind of, pass the guard, side control, mount, finish up on top. Now it's kind of, and then it just kind of reminds you, then things started changing, and everybody just wanted to start attacking your feet because nobody could pass the guard. It's too hard. And then people got really good at, American Jiu-Jitsu, like my coach Higgin calls it, American Jiu-Jitsu leg locks and all that kind of stuff. So now it's kind of trained into kind of like an hourglass. You can attack from everything, leg. I look at it more like an hourglass attack. I can take your legs, I can go after this, go after your knees and stuff. And that's why I've seen it really change kind of through the years.
Well, it has to feel phenomenal to sit back and watch this evolution of sport. Because, I mean, when you started, the sport was, I don't know if non-existent, but it was barely there, especially here in U.S., right? And you were part of that onboarding, if you will, getting exposed to the population. And now, well, I think every major city has jiu-jitsu academies, probably several of them. And it really, I don't know if it's a household name yet, but it's definitely on its way there. So it has to feel good that you were part of this historical.
Oh yeah.
Emotion.
Well, yeah. Well, it's yeah, it's exploded, right? And when it first came here, all the Gracies came here, and it's kind of more for their lifestyle, surfing, the weather and stuff like that. I was very fortunate for Florian and his family to move right, in South Redondo on Red Bean, kind of down there. I think he had a house before that, but that's where I first started training over there on their house in Red Bean. And I just seen it explode, and it just, I could tell you a story how I first, started training jiu-jitsu. I was at a friend's house, and I was a wrestler. I wrestled for a good years, and I was at his house hanging out with him. And when I went over there, Rickson was there, and this guy named Brazilian George were there. And, Rickson, at that time I was about 165, and Rickson looked about 180, 190 with, bad cauliflower ears. I had a little bit, but I looked at him and I said, the guy looks like a tough dude with cauliflower ears. And my buddy kept saying, oh, this guy does wrestling. This guy does wrestling, to me. And then, and Rickson and Brazilian George were there. Oh, we do jiu-jitsu. We do jiu-jitsu. Back in those days, jiu-jitsu, I just thought it was karate, karate guy. So, they're like, oh, we should get together and train sometime. And, I was pretty cocky at the time. And I said, yeah, when do you want to do it? And they said, well, we have a place on Red Bean. Come down and, train with us. I said, well, let's go do it today. He said, do you want to go do it today? And I said, yeah, let's go. So they gave me the address, and I showed up, that day in the afternoon. And, there was Rickson and Horian and Hoker and Hoyler, Hoff, Hensel, the whole, Hoist, the whole clan was in the house, right? And all I could hear is blah, 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 wrestler, blah, 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 wrestler. Right? That's what I could hear, right? And so I was like, okay, let's just, and I haven't wrestled for a while. I was like 22 at the time. And, just hanging out, had a girlfriend, and just kind of talking dogs and a girlfriend. So, I wanted to I wanted to kind of roll around and fight a little bit. And so they put a gi on me, and I go, okay, we're ready for karate. You know what I mean? I go, I'm going to take this guy down and, get him in a hole. But all of a sudden they put Hoist in front of me, right? And Hoist stands in front of me, I have a gi on, and, we start circling in the garage, and I take him down. He lets me take him down pretty fast, and then he goes for an arm bar. But, I have short arms, and Hoist has long body, and he got me halfway on my arm. I started picking him up in the air. I was going to slam him on the ground. They're like, no, don't do that. Don't do that, right? But, what really made me change is because, when I wrestled with my friends in high school, all my wrestling friends, they give up the back. They give up the back if you get attacked and all that kind of stuff. But when I went against Hoist, he just instantly laid on his back, and he just laid on his back, and how long Hoist is. I looked at him like, holy shit, look at this, and he's pulling on me and tagging and all this stuff like this. And I, I've always said to myself, when I wrestle with friends that don't wrestle, they go to their back. But guys that have been taught to wrestle, they give up their back, right? So I wrestled with my friends that didn't, and they give up their arms, and like, dude, you're pinning yourself, right? But Hoist did that, right? And he started doing this and yanking, and all of a sudden, he got to my back and got me in a back choke. I'm like, what the hell? What is this? I mean? And I fell in love with it from right then. I just seen it like, man, this is what I need to learn, right? And, and so I started taking it. And the thing is that when I was there, Rickson was next. And, so I wrestled with Hoist for a little bit. And then Rickson's like, okay, I want to wrestle, because that's who I was coming to wrestle with, right? And so, I knew all of a sudden, I go, okay, in wrestling, when someone's really good, just take him down, let him back up. Take him down, let him back up. So that's what I did with Rickson. I took him down a couple times. I let him back up. Then I just said, guys, I'm kind of running out of talent. I'm getting really tired, and I got to stop. But they liked it. They liked it so much. And so they asked me, what do you do for a living? What do you do for a living? And I said, I have a landscape business, gardening landscape business. And go, we're going to fire our gardeners. So you can start working for us. And I said, perfect. So I started taking private lessons with Hoker, I think it was. Hoker, the one of the brothers, right? And then Rickson and Florian. And I started just, for about a year. And I got my blue belt from them, actually, within like 6 months because of my wrestling and stuff like that. They gave me my blue belt. And that's where I kind of started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So
first of all, I'm still processing the entire story as you are telling it. But at that point, when you meet Rickson, for the very first time, I assume that you don't know who he is.
Of course not. No.
I mean,
no.
you at that point you're like oblivious to the jiu-jitsu world, right? I mean,
like I've heard Rickson and Higan coaches say when they're, they go here, in Brazil they're gods. Here they're just another Mexican.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. So when you are there at their place and you're going with Royce, do you actually feel like? I guess I'm trying to comprehend if you actually trying to beat him up, like are you trying to win these competitions?
Of course, I just wanted to go at him, because I thought he was a karate guy, so I thought I got him, But they put a gi on me, and I'm not used to that. But it's their house, their place, and I'm a good guy. I'm not going to go. I don't want that. I want, because they invited me over. I'm appreciative, and my mom raised me right, so I just okay, let's do it. And so I put the gi on and I just did it and I liked it, but I'd rather, for all the years, I'd rather not train with it, but nobody had that kind of stuff. They had Thr Libre. I kept following it, but they're, we don't want to do that. He makes the mat dirty and this and that. I go, come on, let's do without it. And, that's when Rigan Machado, Rigan I got a story for that. That's a little bit further, but, so yeah, when I went at Rickson and Royce, I was there to, that's what you do. I'm young and, I want to, these guys are karate guys. I'm going to take them out.
How many minutes in did you realize, this isn't karate?
Well, when Royce went to his back, I started picking him. He tried to get me to an arm bar. I'm like, what the hell is this? And then, I just picked him up in the air because I just, then I'll stop. And then, we went again and he got around my back, choked me out. I'm like, holy shit. What is this? And I kind of knew my wrestling coaches used to say there's stuff called submission wrestling and stuff like that. I mean, you knew a couple of little things, but not like that. It really opened my mind. And I go, man, and I get to wrestle again. When you're done wrestling, I started doing a little bit with my brother in college a little bit, but then I had to work and do all that. Life took that. But, I loved to wrestle. I didn't think I was finished with it. I loved to, still wrestle.
So was the fact that they were on their back versus giving up the back the biggest difference that you noticed right off the bat as you were engaging into this?
100%. It was like, dude, you're pinning yourself. Like, but he could attack from there. I'm like, what the? I could still see Royce's big blade going, like,
So as all of this is continuing, and you said you got your blue belt after 6 months or so, are these classes group classes, or this is more of a one-on-one? We've heard different.
Well, it was
versions.
a little bit of both. I was the gardener landscape. I took care. So they stood by, they opened up their, they let me in. And I just, anytime there was a group class or when they had time for me to take a private and stuff like that, I could come in, and train. So.
At which point it clicks for you that this is the Gracie family, that these are the guys who later on, just a few years later, they establish UFC, which now it's, it is what it is. That those are the guys who paved the path for rest of us, to do living today. Like, I mean, I wouldn't have a job today. We wouldn't be talking to you today, right, without those guys. So the credit is where credit is due. At which point does that sink in for you?
100%. They've opened a lot of doors, but it wasn't just the UFC and all that stuff. It was the Ultimate Challenge first, before that. And one time I think it was Rickson, and Rickson told me, it's been a long time, he goes, I can't teach you anymore. We're starting this thing called the Ultimate Challenge, and we're inviting my cousin. He's a 10-time champion in Brazil, and he's going to start teaching you jiu-jitsu because me and my brothers are going to start this thing called the Ultimate Challenge. And so, that's when Rigan Machado came, and I started training with Rigan, and then they opened, then they started the Ultimate Challenge, and then that's when kind of seen the fighting world, actually. So,
for those who don't know what Ultimate Challenge was, how would you describe that at that point of time as it's getting born, as they are establishing this?
Well, how it was, I know it was like pretty much a free for all. You guys seen it, right? Always had to get out there, and I thought it was beautiful. Orien's a good guy. He's a very smart man. And just the way he put, he could have easily put Rickson out there. But Rickson was teaching Royce, and they put little, Royce is, put him out there. He's this little skinny guy. You know what I mean? And everybody would look at him like, oh shit, he's gonna get his ass kicked. Look at the size of that guy. Look at him. But if you put Rickson out there, you go, oh well, he got lucky. You know, I mean, you know, he was not as big as what they put out there. So it was a great thing for them to do. But you know, it was beautiful. It was the way he, you know, made the ultimate challenge and do that. So, you know, anything goes, boxing, wrestling. And, you know, and I was a wrestler and I knew, you know, I used to hear Tyson and I'm the toughest man in the world. I'm the strongest, but, you know, I could hear Rickson. I want to fight him. You know, all these jiu-jitsu guys go, I want to fight him. I want to fight him. So they started this thing. And it proved that, you know, the grapplers had a really good chance against the stand guys. You know, it proved it for a long time and things will change, you know, just like anything. And, you know, guys will get better and you know,
So things shift over and you meet Rigan Machado. That was your first next instructor. How is that interaction taking place? I mean, we had Chris Howder here, we had John Will, and all of them come to, you know, from that group. You know, and it's always interesting to hear those stories. And correct me if I'm wrong, but what I understand that there was a language barrier with Rigan, especially at the very beginning. Is that the case?
Oh yeah. It was, you know, that's why, you know, 10 years down the road, you know, they started getting their English better and stuff. That's why people can name names and positions and call them all these names and stuff. Right. But when I did it, Rigan could barely speak English, you know, and you try to teach me this and that, but, you know, he just, you know, me and him just hit it off. He had a girlfriend. I had a girlfriend at the time. He was by himself. He loved wrestling because now it was, they were doing tournaments in Brazil. So he knew the importance of takedowns. You know what I mean? It was takedowns now in the tournaments, right? And so he knew I was a wrestler. And so one day I got the opportunity to, you know, first I met him, we became friends. And then he goes, you know, I heard you wrestle. Let's take the gi off. And I want to see you take me down. I want to see, right? So we weren't supposed to do that in there because, you know, no gi on and stuff and dirty and whatever. But he closed the room in there and he goes, let's do it. And I go, okay, you know, don't fall on your back. Like you know, don't get me the triangle or stuff like that. I'm going to take you down. And I took him down a bunch of times and he couldn't believe it. You know what I mean? He couldn't believe I took him down every time. And he really said, you know, I need to do this. And so I became his wrestling coach, a little bit teaching all the stuff. And we do it on the side and then, you know, do a little transition from the takedowns to the arm bars, you know, kind of performing stuff like that. Right. And that was the first time I got to train actually without a gi, which was really fun.
How many years into your jiu-jitsu experience is this?
How many years have I been doing jiu-jitsu?
No. How many? That wrestling session. How much time into it are you in at that point of time?
Oh, in jiu-jitsu?
Yeah.
I was still a blue belt.
Okay, so a year or within
just, you know, within 6 months to 8 months or something like that. I mean, something like that.
So that's an interesting. Like we don't hear those stories often, right? We often talk about, you know, Gracies are the one who, you know, created this or embraced this and they brought this to United States. They taught us all of this. But what you are talking about is actually the other side. Is listen, there's a loophole here that they have recognized, that Rigan recognizes, and he says, listen, show me this. I need to learn this, and I can actually use you to teach me. How is that processing in your head?
Well, you know, back in those days, they weren't as big as everybody thinks they are. They were just another bunch of Mexicans, you know what I mean, to me, you know what I mean? But they had skills, right? Yeah. You know what I mean? They had skills and stuff like that. So it wasn't like, oh, you know, blah, 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 you know, that kind of stuff. So it was just great to wrestle without a gi and it was fun, you know, and that's how I could put it. It wasn't in awe or anything like that. Because they were, you know, they were just starting the the Ultimate Challenge, and he was my coach now, right? That's while they were doing this, and then once that fight, you know, like, you know, once Foyce changed 1,000 years of martial arts when he beat all those guys that day. You know what I mean? That changed everything, right? I mean, people could say, you know, I can do this and that, but Foyce proved he was a little skinny guy beating up monsters, you know. So so when I did that with Rigan, it was just fun. We became good friends about it. And then, and then after that, you know, I trained with him for a little bit. And then he kind of said one day to me, he goes, you know, I'm going back to Brazil. Right. And I go, why? He goes, well, I miss my family. You know, I don't like kind of what's kind of going on here with me. You know, I just feel like I'm just, you know, not what, you know, he just wasn't happy with what they proposed and what he was doing. So He said to me, I remember walking out on the driveway at the Gracie's house, and he goes, "Here's my phone number." He goes, "I probably won't see you again, but if you ever come to Brazil, call me." And, I was a gardener landscaper, and we were walking out. It was in the middle of the day. And, my landscape business gave me a really good chance to train. I could get my guys going. And then once I would, when I started training at the Gracies, I would get my guys to, mow the lawns and do all the work in the front while I could go train. So I remember walking out in the driveway and seeing my guys sitting in the car waiting for me. And Higgins was going to say goodbye. And it just came to me, I looked down the street, Red Beam, and I seen a bunch of other gardeners kind of working. And I said to Higgin, Higgin, I do pretty well what I'm doing, but I'm the lowest guy in the totem pole in business. I go, the pool guy, the painter, I'm the gardener landscaper. I get paid the less, but I do well, right? I go, why don't you just open a school? Why don't you just open a school here and do it, And he kind of looked at me, kind of looked around. He goes, I don't know. Maybe I don't know. And he goes, let me talk to my cousin, and I'll call you back next week, or just let me call you back next week, or we'll talk, because maybe let me just see. And I didn't know his cousin was Carlos Gracie Jr. at the time, right? And so I showed up the next week. He said, "Come over, come over. I want to talk to you." So I showed up again, and he pretty much said, if I open a school, I'm thinking of doing. I talked to my cousin. He said, "Yeah, I should open a school." And I said, "Okay." He goes, "If I open it, will you come with me?" I said, "Of course. Let's do it." When? And he did. And then he opened the school.
How did that feel to you? I mean, one, you have established business. Two, you're doing this crazy jiu-jitsu stuff that nobody knows about yet, right? Mm-hmm. And then this opportunity presents itself to work with Higgin. How are you processing this in your head?
Well, still, I wasn't, I just thought, I wasn't thinking about anything like, how big it was or how it is now. Because when I look now and I go to, world tournaments and Higgin, how big it is now, and it just started like with the Higgin side, it's humongous. You know what I mean? I didn't process it then. Now I am, but back then it wasn't, I just wanted to go surf and wrestle. I wanted to help this guy out. I just wanted to help this guy get out of what his predicament was. And he was the only guy. I'm making money, right? I have a, dump truck. I have a service van. I got 2 cars going out. And I'm a gardener landscaper. I got this stuff going in, and I'm making good money. And I go, dude, you're the only person here. It's just the Gracies in you. Dude, come on, open a school, So, and that was it. And then he said, if I do, and I had a bunch of crazy wrestling friends. And so once I got that going, we really made a good school. We really made a tough bunch of individuals, because Higgin was totally into going to other schools, like, guys in San Diego, some of them, guys and all these guys, other jiu-jitsu buddies. And we get to compete against those guys and wrestle with them and all that. And I just thought, and the Gracies were kind of still in their family stuff, doing their thing. So it was great. I just thought I picked the right move, because I just thought that Higgin really taught me well, and it approved it, because when I compete against, that's how I got my black belt, because I had to beat the very best in the world. I hit my weight class. I was a brown belt with Fatoza, and we had a match, I call it, and I ended up beating him. So I finally got my black belt that way. You know what I mean? So I was taught very well. I had all the brothers teaching me. I was very fortunate, because Carlos came, and then I think it was John Jack came, and then, all the other brothers came, and and I got to train with that. If you guys know what interval training is, right? There's 5 of them. I was the 6th guy, what I mean? So I got to train a lot with those brothers when they came there, right? And, I felt like a Ricky Ricardo, tapping all the time, tapping all the time. But after a while, they couldn't make me tap. I could never make them tap it. I could last a lot longer. My defense got really, really well. So it was awesome to have all, and when I got my black belt, all 5 gave me my black belt.
Which one out of the brothers was the toughest?
Well, of course, Higgin was, it's just, no, John Jack too is, but see, when they're all bigger than me. I was like 165. They're all bigger. So, the thing about, if you could slow him down, you could do something, but like John Jack game is on the move. He'll catch you all over the place, like that. Higgin will, he'll hold you down and beat you. And I'd watch him, train with John Jack and beat John Jack, and other things, because he could slow him down. I could never slow John Jack, any of them down. What I mean? Can't put a hold on him, at all. So that's all. It's just size doesn't matter, especially when you have, that kind of technique.
You mentioned about getting your black belt after some of the competition success. What did that feel like at that point? when that
Well, when I got my black belt finally,
Yeah.
you say,
Yeah.
well, it felt good because I really believe that, there was somebody else from the Gracies who got his black belt before me. And I don't think, and I did compete, I did have a closed door match with him and he wasn't very happy about it, and so he got his and it was kind of like a race and I got mine, but I think I got mine through a competition and, it felt good. Nobody just gave it to me. I had to earn it just like my life. And so I always have to do everything the hard way. Everything's hard way for me. So just that made a big difference. But then once I beat him, it was a bittersweet because then I started hearing from everybody, like Carlos Gracie was my friend for a long time. I used to visit him and go to Brazil and he came and spent Christmas with me. But once I beat his prodigy, things changed. They didn't like it. They got mad at the Machados and all kinds of, just opened a big, nasty can of worms, kind of, actually. So,
why do you think that happens in jiu-jitsu at times where these
because it's their jewel. It was their jewel. It's just they didn't want, it's kind of like the Bruce Lee story in a way, I like to say. When Bruce Lee came here to America, started teaching the white men, and they didn't want to, teach it all. And then, what Bruce Lee wanted to teach. And I just think that Rigan and his brothers really, really wanted to teach, and I'm an instructor too. And, it's kind of shitty to be an instructor and this guy could be really good and you don't teach him what he really needs to learn. And I just thought I would probably get that from something else. I really got really good lessons from the Machado brothers. They really taught me well, because it's all people always ask me, you did really well. It's because I had great coaching. You really need good coaching to be where you're at.
Do you feel that Rigan was the best instructor you've ever had in all these decades?
Of course, yeah. Him and John Jack, all the brothers. They took me in because, I just put it this way: if I didn't tell Rigan, about staying, I think Rigan would have went back to Brazil, because he was on his way. He would have went back and said, I don't like America, I don't like this, I don't. And I think the brothers probably would have stayed home in Brazil too, and somebody else would have took that. So every holiday, every Christmas, everything, Rigan always texts me first. He always calls me or texts, tells me he loves and appreciates what I did. And, that's I've been very fortunate to have that.
You still
I don't know how it happened. Oh yeah. I talk to him a lot, but lately he's Mr. Hollywood and stuff, he's got, and you got to put it this way. He's been doing it for so long. And people go, well, he should do this and that and stuff dude, give him a break, and you get, after a while, you've been doing it so long. You got to move on to other things in this life. Some people just, when they start jiu-jitsu, they're all fanatic like the rabbit. We like to be like the tortoise, the turtle. We take our time, just like our training now. Some people just come out and they just like a rabbit, and then they start giving well, he's not doing this or that, or he should be competing. Get over it, bro. You did enough of that stuff, right? All of us.
Let's go back to that black belt moment.
Sure.
Did you know it was coming? That's number one.
Well, they were, the Machados were like the new kids on the block. So when we had our school, a lot of world champions, a lot of tough guys would come over to learn with the Machados, right? They were coming over. And so I was like called like the heavy, the guy that I'd have to fight with everybody who walked through the door pretty much, so yeah, it was like closed door. I had to compete. They were sending guys from the Gracies to compete against me, fight against me all the time. And it wasn't like, I couldn't tap. I had to go, like my coach would say, most of them would say, when you go against a guy who comes in here, you don't know him, you go at him as hard as you can because you never know. You might never get another chance with him. And he's going to blah, blah, blah about us. So go. I was willing to break I don't care. I'd go. And so when I got my black belt, I heard that Fatoza Marcia was a black belt already, but we didn't have anybody at that time. I was the highest ranking for the Machados, other guys and stuff like that. And so they said, we were going to have a Pan American, everybody together. And Bob, Fatoza's your weight class and he's undefeated world champion, never lost a match in his life. That's what I heard. And so, if you do good against him, everybody's going to like it. But I ended up pretty much beating him pretty well, and so I just, I was like, can I get my black belt now? Because, I beat the best. Can I get it now? And when I was, all the people are trying to throw me black belts, I would train with other places and schools and, and they want to give me my black belt. But no, I have, some people just don't have any respect for their coaches and stuff. And I taught guys up to brown belt and they go to another school and they go, oh man, here's your black belt. And they come with a black, like, what the hell? So I was very loyal and I don't see that a lot nowadays. I mean, some people just, just want to get that black belt. I had a lot of chances to get a black belt before, but no, I stuck with Rigan. And when I said, when I was ready for him to give me my black belt, I'm ready for it, because,
walk me through that day. Walk me through that moment when that happened.
When I fought Toza, or
no, when you got your black belt.
Or
when you got your black belt.
Well, they said, after I beat him, they said they were going to have a party for me. You know what I mean? And they had a party over here in Dondo, and they just had big pizza party. Everybody showed up, and we watched the match and stuff like that. And it was a great time. That's all I could say. It was when Hickey gave me my brown belt and stuff, he said, the problem's yours. And, he goes, I don't want this because I'm your friend. He goes, no, you get it worse because you're my friend. Right. And that's how I treat with my friends too. Those people that are older and stuff, I give them on a little curve. I give them their belts and stuff. I own a school, South Bay Jiu-Jitsu. It's in Hermosa Beach. But my friends, actually, I go, no, dude, just like Rigan said to me, no, if you're my friend, it's a little harder. I promise you, because you're my business partner.
Well, you're saying that you earned it. That's what you're saying.
I really think I earned it out of everybody, to tell you that, because my whole life is always the hard way. So now, I like doing it the hard way.
So now, looking in retrospect, looking back on all of this, how long you've been on the mat total?
Well, I started rolling when I was a kid. I got very lucky. We moved into Manhattan Beach, and we lived on the back part. The end, everybody, one part of Sepulveda, there was no life past Sepulveda. I lived by the high school, and most of the surfers and everybody kind of grew up here. I kind of grew up where all the jocks were. But my neighborhood, and I really believe that you're a victim of your environment, because in my neighborhood, there were surfers, wrestlers, baseball players, and football players, right? And I played them all, right? And I loved it. I love to surf, and I love to wrestle. And so they had a couple of the Martinez's and the Moores. The Martinez's were the wrestlers, really good wrestlers, doing really well, state champions. And the Moores too, they're from Oklahoma wrestlers. Their father was an OB wrestler. And then my friend across the street was a surfer. So I just kind of followed the bandwagon. I was the littlest out of all of them. I was the youngest, and get my ass beat all the time by the wrestlers and surfing and all that kind of stuff. So.
How old are you then?
I was, when I started wrestling on the mat, I was like 12,
12,
and stuff like that.
When you started jiu-jitsu?
I was 22, 23.
22.
Mm-hmm.
So looking in retrospect at all of this,
mm-hmm.
like, listen, you're saying all these stories, and like, I trained jiu-jitsu for 20 plus years, and like, I'm
mm-hmm.
listening to you, and I have a hard time comprehending all of it. Like, I have a hard time wrapping my mind around this. One, this very family-like, friendly, casual connection that you have with Machado brothers, but also rest of the family as well. And it's more of a like, let's hang out and let's just roll. Where now, these days, 99.9% of population of who trains jiu-jitsu would pay endless amount of money to be in your shoes. And for you, it appears to me that way, at least. It's just another story. It was just part of my life. I was just there. And correct me if I'm wrong with this, but there's something refreshing about this very family-like environment that you're describing.
Yes, it was. The Gracies were, I think we felt a camaraderie because the Gracies were really upset that Rigan opened a school. They were really upset about it. And Rigan, me and him kind of go back and forth. I could have swore he called it Carlos Gracie Jr. Jiu-Jitsu, but I think he called it something else. And whatever Rigan says, I say, okay, you know what I mean? But they, got so mad and they wanted to sue him for the name, which I think was the biggest mistake they ever did. They should have never sued anybody because everything would be probably Gracie Jiu-Jitsu still instead of, South Bay Jiu-Jitsu, your Jiu-Jitsu school. It's still under Gracie. And I remember Rigan calling me up and he said, you need to come over to the house because, me and my brothers are probably going to get in a fight with my cousins, and I'm like, really? And I go, well, I was like a blue belt still or something. I remember telling Rigan, okay, I'll come over, I'll go, but I tell him, I feel like a pigeon flying with eagles, but I'm coming. Okay. But I'll come, let's do it. But nothing ever happened. and everything kind of got filed out, but it made a big stink. The Gracie family and then Carlos Gracie Jr. they had a big fallout about this whole thing. You know what I mean? But now everybody's good. You know, it took a while because money get funny, you know, and they didn't understand that there's so much out here. There's so much to, you know, everybody just gets greedy. You know, I mean, it's not about, you know, money gets funny, you know, even, you know, you see it, the family members are, but the Machados weren't kind of like that. They're like, yeah, we're just going to do our thing and we're going to make you good and we're going to prove it in our actions. And we did, you know, I got very fortunate. I had great coaching. And like you said, it was just a very laid back environment. We trained real hard but you know, you try to be nice off the mat, but when you're on the mat, you train real hard, you know, and you don't give up, you know, nothing.
And you know what? Yeah. Interesting that you mentioned this because I mean, we did have Carlos Machado here on the show some time ago, and that's one of the things that he mentioned is that, you know, off the mat everybody's friendly, but when you're on the mat, it's all about work, and we are fighting, we are working hard, and you know, hey, listen, you let me, I will smash you.
Yeah. Well, I will break your arm.
Yeah.
You know, I'll break. I mean, that's part of the game. You know, I've been with other friends and I tell them, I got you. You know, I got you. And maybe the first time, but the second time, I've broken a couple of my friends' arms. Like, I got you. And you don't tap, I'm going to break your arm or break something. Oh, but I always tell people, if you learn how to tap, you'll never get hurt.
Yeah, that's
it.
Would you agree that's one of the toughest lessons in jiu-jitsu? Tapping and submitting yourself to.
That's right. Mm-hmm. And most people get hurt when they're white and blue belts, maybe purple, but when you get to brown and black, you know it's coming. You just tap, you know, because, you know, he who fights and runs away lives to fight another day. Well, you know, you got me this time, I'll get you next time.
That's the thing. I think by the time we get to that purple, brown, or black, we actually want to train more than we want to not train. And that ability of simply pausing and saying, okay, you got me, let's do it again. It's an important acknowledgement in our mind. Yet it's so difficult at the beginning.
Well, you know,
I'm looking at Gary here.
Well, you know, I like to tell people, you know, jiu-jitsu to me is a fountain of life. It's a fountain of youth. It really is. If you really stick to it, you know, you get past that little bit of injuries and you get past the hangups and you just train with your buddies and stuff. It keeps you healthy, happy, strong. You know what I mean? And I call them the weights fight back. You know, you might not have that muscle man physique, you know, like that, but jiu-jitsu, you're moving weights all the time. I'd rather learn I go the weights fight back here. You know what I mean? I kind of like, you can't become a good sailor on calm seas. You can't become a good fighter on something that doesn't punch back or doesn't wrestle with you. You know what I mean? So that's why I love jiu-jitsu. I'd probably be, you know, 100 pounds heavier if I didn't keep, you know, training jiu-jitsu.
That is true. That is true. And our minds would not work the same either.
We've talked very recently about, you just got to keep moving. And I think that's what, you know, as you age, if you stop, you become sedentary, everything starts falling apart, right?
Yeah.
And
100%.
And jiu-jitsu keeps that from happening. And, you know, it's great that I think we're just going to keep doing it for a long time.
Of course.
When we had Carlos here, I just wanted to settle something. He said he was the best of the brothers. So,
no, of course. He is. At that weight class. Let's put him at that weight class. Yeah. He's the older, you know, I mean,
he's got to say that, right?
I trained with Carlos a lot in my time. So you know, he's just a little bit 10, 15 pounds heavier than me. So he fit me well. You know what I mean? We kind of fit better together. But I never got a chance to wrestle without a gi. You know what I mean? Never got a chance. You know, I wish I could. I come from a wrestling background and I wish I could have, you know, back in the time. But it's their art, their family, all that kind of stuff. It's great. I enjoyed everything. You know, jiu-jitsu with a gi, it's kind of like a chess game. You know, I mean, it's a chess game, right? But without the gi, it's more like a checkers game. It's quicker, faster, less, you know, not as technical, the gi, you know. So I do a lot of no gi now. I really do. My hands can't take it anymore and hanging on and stuff like that. And so, you know, I kind of went back to my wrestling days. I like doing takedowns and Muay Thai, kicking, punching, and I put on a gi too, mostly time in the wintertime. In the summertime, we don't wear a gi as much, but in the winter, I put my gi on it and stuff like that.
Listen, you're still on the mat and you're still moving, so that's how I look at this. You know, I hope when, you know, I'm there with you with, you know, when I'm in my 50s, 60s, or 70s or 80s, I hope I'm going to continue being on the mat. That's my goal.
I'm 60.
Yeah, one step at a time.
Yeah, it says, you know, I love it. You know, getting older is definitely that's a privilege and a blessing.
That's right.
Getting older.
You talked about some of the behind doors fights or meetings or
matches. I don't call
matches.
them fights.
I don't know what
Match.
Everybody calls
no
them
fuss.
different.
No, this is a fight when you punch them in the face, But yeah, I had a couple. All the time there'd be somebody coming. Machado.
Is there one that sticks out in your mind? I mean, we talked to David Mayer and we talked about Chris Howder, and everybody has their own story of unique one. And
well, there's a couple. When I started competing again, I was competing, I beat Fatoza, then we had to go as black belts, and the next match, when we first met, he came at me to beat me, and I'm more of a counter guy. And so I countered him all the time and I beat him, right? And he was the first loss. And then the second time, it was the most terrible match in the world. I'm more of a wrestler. So both of us had a lot of respect for each other. And it was just a stand-up match. We could, 10 minutes of standing up, but he's the best in the world at his thing. And I just walked away. He won because Brazilian pound, Brazilian rep, everything, So like my coach would say, if you don't score points, if you don't beat him straight out, make a tap, you're going to lose no matter what. And so that's what happened. I had 3 other black belt matches, one with Kleber too. And it was the worst match ever because, first before I had to weigh in, I weighed in my weight class at my weight, 159. And there was, 3 Gracie guys, Carlos Gracie, all those guys were there. And I weighed in perfect, got my weight in, but Carlson Gracie wasn't there. One of the, and he goes, I didn't see him weigh in. I need him to weigh in. I already had a sandwich I was eating. And I go, I just weighed in. And he goes, no, I need you to weigh in. I was like a quarter pound overweight. He goes, oh, you cannot fight. You're a quarter pound over. I go, look at it. I go, what are you talking about? I go, I just weighed in. You guys see me? Nope, you can't. So I had to go to the bathroom, do all that kind of stuff. And every time I competed against those guys, I go, I never see those guys weigh in. I never get to see them. When I wrestled in high school and stuff, and you get to see the brackets, you get to see them weigh in, but no, we got it. When they start saying that kind of stuff, something's not right. I just want to see them weigh in, And so we had this match, and we all I remember is, we were into the match and I stepped out of bounds. Rickson said, break. And I broke, like that. And there was a big crowd. I was stepping over everybody. And Kleber threw me in the ring. He didn't say start. He didn't say nothing. And he just, from the outside of the ring, he still had my sleeve when I was standing over the people like this. And he had my sleeve and he threw me into the ring, right? And Rickson goes, 2 points. But when I slammed off the mat and stood back up, I swept him on his back and put him. And I looked at Rickson and I said, when did you say start? When did you say start? And the crowd was booing so loud. He goes, because he gave him 2 points, and he goes, okay, I take the 2 points back. Right? And so we started going again. And then, Kleber's a little smaller than me. So I couldn't, every time I tried to take him down, I couldn't. So I got on my knees a little bit and I sat to my guard and I hook swept. I got an ankle swept and I took like this. I put him on his back, ended up on top. Rickson wasn't looking. Time ran out and he said, Kleber won, right? And the whole crowd was booing. But the thing that really hit me is that this guy, Mark Eckert, who was Rickson's best guy, one of them, walked up to me after the match. He goes, I feel ashamed. I feel so ashamed because my coach ripped you off, right? And it was just, and that was like me saying about my coach. And then I actually walked up to Rickson after the thing, and I was going to say something to him. And somebody went in front of Rickson's face and just said, you might be a good fighter. You're a bleep, 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 and walked away. And I looked at him like, yeah. And I just went, yeah, you get it. That's how bad it was. You know what I mean? I just, and you can see I clearly, and I like to say to Edgar, because he goes, I want to see how you swept him right after the match, and I was so pissed because when he picked him, I was like, huh? And Kleber looked like he just won $1 million. He couldn't believe it. Because when you're rolling with somebody, you're beating him. I got ahead of him. I got the sweep. I got it. And Mark Eck goes, how did you sweep him like that? I go, hey, Mark, I'm not very happy right now. Can I show it some other time? And if Mark ever gets Mark, I'd love to, I haven't seen him since or anything like that, but I'd love to show you the move, Mark. You know what I mean? Because you can see it clearly. I got him, and then time around, hits him that way, and whatever, and then I went after. Then me and Fatoza went again, and I got him on a leg bar, and he said I was twisting his knee and all that kind of stuff, and and I, if I didn't score points, I would lose. So after a while, it just took the wind out of my sails. I said, you know what? I have a family to raise. I've just bought a house. I'm doing this stuff, and I can't win anymore. You know what I mean? I just can't. So I kind of gave it up. I said, you know what? I'm good. I went out with the best, and in my heart, I could keep up with it. They didn't have nothing on me. I was good, and I had to start a family. I have to raise some other stuff, and it's time for me to put that away and get serious about another life, right? So
what do you mean by I had to put it aside?
Well,
Does
just
that
the
mean
competition stuff. Just the competition stuff. You know, I'm not going to win here. And then it got better, you know, after I did it, you know, because now more Americans were involved in it and they didn't run it all hokey pokey anymore. But when I was in it, it was terrible. You know what I mean? Late nights, we compete at 12 o'clock at night. People late, people waiting. It just everybody. I remember walking behind the weigh-ins and seeing the Brazilians like pulling the other guy up by his pants, you know, to get him in there. Because got the Brazilian guys weighing him in, and the other guy they're all, you know. I look, I go, is that how it's done, guys? You know, I'm an American. I like to be fair. Like, dude, this is supposed to be fair. I want to make it an Olympic sport, but it would never be that way if you're gonna do this kind of stuff. The shenanigans going on, right? Those are brackets, they don't know nothing, you know, I mean, I said, but it's totally changed now. I love what's kind of going on. I love that you can train without a gi now. You know, I wish I could have those competitions without a gi. I think I would excel more without them, you know, because takedowns, it's hard to take someone down with a gi all the time, you know, just, you know, that kind of stuff. You know, so.
Why do you think that gi was so embedded into the training? Or how come they were not so open-minded to no gi?
Well, I don't know, because they had Ballatudo over there and stuff. Like, I don't know. Just, I kept hearing other stuff. And, you know, when we had our gis, when I fought, I had a fucking baggy, I hate to hate the word, but my thing was like a judo gi. It was huge, you know what I mean? You know, we finally started to get smaller gis and stuff like that. And they had their gis were all firm and trim and stuff. We were just, you know, I was just happy to get out there and roll and stuff like that. And so, I don't know. I can't answer that. I don't know. That's just what was done. You know, you didn't ask. I just was happy to learn submission and be a part of it.
Despite all of these conflicts that you're talking about in the competition world, it appears to me that you still enjoyed it. It was a big part of it until the very end, right? When your life pivoted. What was so enjoyable about it?
What, the competition?
Yeah. Why did you love it?
Because that's why you do it. That's why you want to see where you're at. You know what I mean? You want to test yourself, right? You know, but every time I was getting, you know, I just, you know, at the last time I competed against Vitoza, I seen him and he goes, Bub, in his English, he goes, when are you going to the Masters? You know, I said, why? He goes, you too hard on me. You need to go to the Masters. You know, that's what he told me. And that was it. I love you. Thank you for saying that. That made me feel good. You know, and I beat Clever that time. I raised my hand. Everybody in the whole audience thought I won. Everybody did, except for Rickson. You know what I mean? And, you know, that's how I see it. You know, and if you watch it, you know, and like I said, his best students even came up to me and said, you know, that was wrong. I feel ashamed. So that's all. Just kind of, you know, I still have a bad taste in my mouth about that kind of stuff because I would have kept going. You know, I think I would have kept competing, but, you know, I thought, you know, my brown belt, Vitoza came at me. You know, the thing is that when I went against Vitoza, we got called. It was UC Irvine, and we went into the bathroom, right? And I had to go to the bathroom. He was in there already. Vitoza getting ready. I went and I looked up at him like, hey, you know, hey, how's it going? He just looked at me like I was like, you know, didn't even say nothing. So I said, you know what? I'm going to give you my A game for that. You know what I mean? If I didn't see him in the bathroom, he probably would kick my ass. You know what I mean? I'm just happy. Let's just train. Let's feel like this. But when he didn't look at me that way, it was like, you know what? That's it. I'm going. I'm not going to be nice to this. You know what I mean? So, you know, and then I had 3 other black belt matches, you know, and nobody scored any points on me, like, and I lost the ball, you know. So I'm like, this is it. You know, I had enough, you know, took the wind out of my sails after a while. I was done.
After all these years, obviously things have changed, and IBJJF runs a very different event. You know, some consider one of the best ones that are ever there. As far as gi jiu-jitsu and no gi jiu-jitsu is, what do you think is the biggest change that they've made over that, you know, that period of time?
They just run it so much better. You know, the Americans got involved in it or something. It's just so much. It's not, you know, when, you know, I went, you know, high school wrestling, and it's, you know, okay, it's high school wrestling, but at least it's organized. You know, it's organized, you know, and you go there and you say, you know, and it's not organized, you know, it's just run. It was so too much shenanigans kind of going on, right? It's all. And so now it's run very well, you know, and I think, you know, I used to talk to Carlos Gracie. He was my friend, you know, and I said, you know, you guys got to, you know, we should make this an Olympic sport. Oh, we will, Bob, we will. But it did change for a long time, you know what I mean? And, you know, and now it has changed, and other venues and stuff are changing things, and they run right on the dime. Things are boom, boom, you know, and people are weighing in right there instead of having these guys behind the scene. You don't know who's weighing in, and you got other guys that are very good officials that will, you know, not help their family countrymen, you know, all that kind of stuff. you know.
Do you think it'll ever make the Olympics?
I hope so. It should. I really think it should, at least no gi, you know what I mean? You know, I got judo for the gi stuff, but I would really love to see before I put my, my bones in the dirt. I'd really like to see that, you know, because for me and Higgins starting, when I was just me and him, we opened Carlos Gracie Sr., Carlos Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. It's expanded. It was just me and him first. Then his brother came, then more and more. And then it's just like World League and all that other kind of stuff. I walk in there and go, oh my God. I do seminars in Colorado. I do seminars all over and just exploded. It came from, the West Coast. Then it went to the Hansel and Craig Kukoc did it on the East Coast, and I had a brother that was wrestling in Georgia. He was 18 years half brother, and he wanted to wrestle. He wanted to do jiu-jitsu. And I said, just wait, it's going to get there. And it did. Now he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. Right. Yeah. But I'm sorry, but I kind of varied from the other part. But yeah, the closed door one time, I actually, Horian owed me some money for the gardening accounts. Right.
Here we go. Yeah. There's a good one.
Because, I went with Higgins. Right. But my guys were still doing the accounts. Right. On his property. So, and he never would pay me, which is okay. But I ran into him one day and I said, hey, you owe me some money and, for the accounts. And he goes, well, why don't you come to my school and we could work it that way, right? And I told Keegan about it, and he goes, if you go there, this is when they had their first school, really the Taj Mahal of Jiu-Jitsu on Carson Street, a really big, beautiful school. And we were still training in like the garage or outside and, our little spot. But I had all the brothers. And so he goes, if you go there, Craig's going to be waiting for you. I said, okay, because it was like, I was trying to get everybody to roll with each other. You know what I mean? Why can't we just come roll? You guys are cousins. And so why do we have to be separated? I want to go over there and roll with them. And I was a purple belt at the time. Craig was a brown belt at the time. And he was like 220 and I was like 160. And sure enough, I went there and Rickson was there. Florian wasn't there. And they kind of acted like they didn't know I was coming, but they did, because Craig was waiting for me. And, Rickson pretty much told me, you got to pick one flag, but we have somebody here for you to train with. And they closed all the doors, and me and him went back there. And I like Kukoc. I really like him. He's not a bad guy, but we started off on a bad note, kind of because I would see him training a little bit. He'd watch me train a little bit, but we never got to train. But we finally got a chance to train, and I seen him warming up in the room with his brown belt, and he was jumping and warming up, and we have someone for you to train with, and come over. So they closed everything up, and they had this big groove. And all of a sudden, Rickson goes, okay, I want you guys to train. All of a sudden, the phone rang. And Rickson goes, hold on. I'll be right back. I got to go answer the phone. Right. And so Rickson goes and answers his phone. And then Craig goes, let's go. And I go, no, let's wait for Rickson. Let's just wait for Rickson. Wait. But Craig just came at me. And he pretty much came at me hard. And I got his back and slammed me up against the wall. Boom. And I let him go. And we kind of got this fight going in the back without Rickson being there. Right. And I caught him, and I caught him in an arm bar. He didn't like it. Then Rickson came, and he didn't know we were ready to fight, right? And Rickson goes, okay, I want you to fight. And Craig said, I don't feel very well. I got to go. And Rickson got mad at him and kicked him out of the room. Then I had to fight with Rickson.
How did that go?
It was good, he beat me like he could, but when I was done, he said, are you a brown belt? That's what he told me. Are you a brown belt? And I said, no, I would never come to your school with a purple belt. Right. But I did one time, we were rolling. He got me and stuff. But one time I was rolling and I cross body blocked him and I got on side control him. And I've never felt it before. He started vibrating. I was like, and he just popped me off. And I'm like, but then I got to wrestle with Craig and I wrestled with him. And I said, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. And I left. And then we didn't have cell phones at that time, so I got on the next payphone and I called Keegan. And he's waiting. He goes, what happened? And I said, I got Craig. I made him tap, and I told him kind of what happened. And then like the next day he showed up and he goes, Craig wants to fight you now. And all, what? I don't want to fight him. He wants to fight you. Right. And I'm like, I don't know if he was joking. He was joking or not. But after a while I go, I don't really want to fight him. But if I have to, I will, what I mean? But I don't want to. He's bigger than me. I throw rocks, he throws bricks. I'm like, I'll go, And then he just kind of goes, here's your brown belt. The problem's yours now. And so that's when I got my brown belt, actually. So, and then, I didn't see Craig for a long time until I seen him in Brazil. And, I was training at Baja Gracie. And, I just looked like another Brazilian, short, little stocky guy walking through the crowd of, Pepe Beach. And all of a sudden I look over and I see this big white guy. And I turned my head, I go, is that Craig Cox? I go, oh, I don't want him to see me. I was tired from, I just got done training. I just rolled all morning, and I go, man, if that's Craig, he's going to kick my ass. We're going to get one of those fights on the beach. I know he's going to want to fight me, because that's the last time. And I kind of turned my head, and I kind of walked by, and he must have seen me. Walk right, he goes, Bob Bass. And I go, Craig, And he goes, you know what? He told me that he goes, be careful down here. And I, what do you mean? He goes, I just witnessed like the most horrific accident. Some guy on a motorcycle ended up falling in front, dying in his lap, and this crazy story. And I said, wow, be careful. And I shook his hand, and it was the last time I ever seen him again. But I think we kind of settled that kind of stuff, He just said, be careful. And I thought he was going to come over and fight me, actually. So Craig ever hears this, thank you, Craig, for not kicking my ass.
Listen, as I'm listening to all these stories of yours, as you continue telling us some of the insights of the historical points that were taking place as you were experiencing them, I can't help myself to really, put you in a spot where let me rephrase this. Let me ask you: do you find yourself as one of the pioneers of jiu-jitsu? Do you find yourself as one of the people who have established this?
Well, the Brazilians did a long time, but the Americans, I am fortunate. I look back and go, wow, now I look back, but back then you don't see it. Like I said, I'm kind of like a fine glass of wine, a bottle of wine. I think the longer it goes, the more people want to know about the history a little bit more,
Yeah.
And I even feel a little animosity between some of the brothers now. John Jack and Keegan are they're the greatest, but some of the other ones, I want to go and be with them in the seminars, but I just kind of feel like they don't want me to be there sometimes. It's just, I'm sorry. I just, I kind of want to be there and see these guys, and because I am their first black belt, but I don't feel like I get that much.
Why do you
out of all
think
their black belts, all those people? I don't know. It's just, I don't know. I don't know. That's why I just kind of feel that way.
Yeah. So what's next for you? Where are you? You've done so much in your life. You've done so much in jiu-jitsu. Yeah. What's next?
I got a couple of things I wanted to tell you, a couple of little stories. You guys want to hear some funny shit?
Yeah,
right? Want to hear something first?
We're here for
Well, which one? Danny Santos or Gene LeBell?
Oh, both of them?
I got to hang out. I got to train. Gene LeBell was my neighbor. I didn't know. So I guess I'll start with Gene, actually. So, I had this cabin up in Pine Mountain. I would go up there. It's about an hour north of Los Angeles, kind of. And I didn't know Gene LeBell had a cabin up there, just around the corner, And I would go up there and not do any jiu-jitsu or nothing. It was just high altitude running. I just would do a lot of altitude running and do all my calisthenics and stuff like that. And so after that, I had my little man cave down below under that little storm cellar. And I would go down there and partake in my little drinking and having fun, down there. Close it. I had a son at the time, and I'm actually at my ex-wife's house right now. She's, I love her dearly, but we were married at the time in a cabin, and I got all my chores. I did everything. Can I go out of my man cave, please? Yeah, you can. Go ahead. And I went down there, and I was about ready to have a shot and drink, and all of a sudden I hear this, Bobby Bass. And I look out the crack of my storm cellar thing out the basement. I look and I see this guy doing a full stand-up wheelie on like a 70 Honda motorcycle. And on my property, you drive in it and you could drive around it like this. Mm-hmm. And the guy's doing this stand-up wheelie going, Bobby Bass. And I look, and I just got done reading Gene's autobiography, a couple of months back about what he did and all the stuff he's done. And holy shit, that's Gene LeBell riding on a motorcycle calling my name, right? And so and I'm so glad that I didn't take a shot of whiskey. I didn't drink anything. I'm so glad, because if I took that sip, I probably wouldn't have done, got to meet him like he is. How there's a fork in the road, things happen, right? And I was like, walked out, I'm like, hey, what's up? And he goes, hey, Bobby Bass, I got you're Gene LeBell. He goes, yeah. I go, whoa, what are you doing here? He goes, well, I have a school up the street here. I have a dojo up the street. We're neighbors up around the corner. And and all of a sudden my ex comes out the door, right? And she comes out the door, sees us talking. And I had to go, oh yeah, Jeanette, this is Gene LeBell and blah, blah. And she looks at us like, because we're trying to get away from jiu-jitsu. I'm doing it. I would train with Higgin in the morning. Sometimes 3 times a day, I got to train with John Jack, Higgin, and Carlos. I would train as much as I can with these guys. And so when I went up on the weekends, no jiu-jitsu, don't talk about it, no nothing, right? But Gene's over there, right? And he comes up and, we have this school, we want to invite you to come up. And Jeanette comes out and goes, here's this. And she goes, don't you get enough of that? Right. And she walked, nice to meet you. And she walks away. And Gene, I remember, I always laugh. He goes, don't worry about it. I have one of those. Don't worry about it. So he kind of said, I go, Gene, I'm up here. I didn't bring my gi. I didn't bring any of my stuff up here. And he goes, well, just come up. Right. And so, now it's kind of like, it's kind of a challenge in a way, and I'm like, and I know, Gene, I know this, when you're a big guy, you attract big people. When you're a little guy, you attract little guys. That's how I see it through the years, right? When I have most of my students are smaller, the big guys can't hang a lot of times. You got to go to a bigger school sometimes because they don't like little guys beating them up. So they're going to the bigger school. I hate to say it. That's how I see it. Anyway. So sure enough, I go up, I walk up there, walk around the corner, and I just see like 30 cars up on a mountain road. And I just go, oh, shit. But I just go, I didn't bring my gi. I don't have to go. I'll just talk and I don't want to. And I walk in there and I'm like, sure enough, big boys are in there, big brothers, big dudes. I'm like, oh God, I'm so glad I didn't bring my gi, And he goes, where's your gi? I go, I told you I didn't bring my gi. Right. And Gene LeBell, right? He wears a pink gi. He has a pink gi. You know about that stuff? You guys know that or not?
No, I didn't know.
You don't know? Well, you have to read his biography. Well, when he was in Japan, when he competed, he actually put some red stuff in his gi and it got all pink. And so when he competed, he wanted it. But the Japanese were all pissed. Thought he was mocking him, but he actually beat everybody in a pink gi. So that's his thing, pink gi. So when I knew about it, and he goes, I didn't bring my gi. So we'll wear one of mine. I go, I didn't wear no pink gi. And he goes, amuse me.
You gotta do it.
God. And it's huge. It's huge. And so we start, and then we do the thing. And then, then he sets me up with number 3. And I, choke. I pretty much, and then number 1, everybody stops. And I get him, big guys, and stuff like that. And at the end, he just said, I really like what you're doing. Can you come teach for us? Would you like to teach for me at my school? Come up here. And I go, Gene, I don't know, I only come up here every other month or something. This is my cabin. And so let me see. So I called my coach Higgin up and I asked him, hey, Higgin, I ran into Gene LeBell. And, Higgins always, he's like I do with my students. I'm not your girlfriend. If you got to want to train somewhere else, go. But that's what I want to do when I was starting to jiu-jitsu, go. So Higgin goes, I don't care, but just remember, he was number 1. They were like the best grapplers. Now we have a conflict between them. Just be careful. And I said, okay. So I called Gene up. I said, Gene, it's okay. I'll come train with you. I'll come teach you. But every time I come up there, he'd always send another ringer up there, somebody else for me to, and I would pretty much make short work out of him. But, I just beat him nice. I bring friends with me, and my friends would go, that guy came at you that way and you're that nice. And I see him crying in the corner, all pissed off. I'm like, I just want to have a good time, I just had good coaching, that's why I fall back on it. But that's my story with Gene. And, actually,
I just looked up his pink gi as you were telling. So it's really pink.
Yeah, it's really fucking pink. I don't want to wear that. Oh my God, really? I couldn't believe it, right? And what I still have, but you know what? He actually, I didn't see him for a few years, and he fought one day because I had one of my fighters, Sean Loeffler. He owns the compound, a really good fighter. And Gene was judging fights now, doing fights, and he ran into me. He goes, hey, I got something for you. And I said, what? He goes, hold on, I got to go to my car. I'm going to bring you something. And he actually brought me a cauliflower necktie pen. So a cauliflower necktie pen. Yeah, a cauliflower necktie pen. Because I give these to my best grapplers who I know. I want you to have them. So I have them, actually.
That's classic.
Yeah. And
I love it.
Actually.
I love it. That's classic. Oh, my goodness. All right.
Yeah, Gene is a character, man. He was a stunt man. For Honda too. Yeah. So this guy, this stocky man, the bike looked about this big. He looked this big on it, like a bear, wheelie around my thing, like an Indian. Bobby Bass. And I'm like, what the hell? Right? Yeah. That's my story with that's him.
That's awesome.
And then and then the one about Dan Santos.
That's Inosanto.
Yeah. So I got the privilege. Eric Paulson. You guys know who Eric Paulson is?
Oh yeah, of course.
Me and Eric are really good friends. I've known Eric, when he was a stand-up guy and he was a bartender for this bar at Sunset down by Manhattan Pier. And I was a grappler. He was a stand-up guy more. He's, we just meet at the bar talking. He's such a good guy. We didn't have to go macho or like, I'm going to fight you or let's go to the school. And we became really, really, really good friends. Right. And I think it was him or set me up with Danny and Santos to do a seminar a couple of weeks, right? Because Danny's Filipino, I'm half Filipino, half Norwegian. And so me and Danny became good friends, actually, right? And one time we were doing a seminar up in, I think it was in Maine, upstate New York, Maine. I think somewhere up in New York, I think it was. And we were, he was teaching in the screen. He was teaching the knives and the stand-up stuff. And then he introduced me to teach the ground grappling. A lot of people have never seen it, right? And so I was showing stuff, and Danny was watching. It was awesome for Danny to get his attention because, he's the man, in the martial arts. I never thought that, and so after the seminar, he goes, well, during the seminar, I go, man, I really like what you were showing, Bob. And can you show me that? Can you show me that sometime before? And I said, no problem, Dan. But, after, Dan's the man and, everybody wants to take him out and do all that, Took and I just kind of followed along, and we ended up going to dinner, getting out back late, but we shared the same room. And at about 11:30, we were about ready to check out. And he goes, hey, we still have a little time. Can you show me those positions? And I said, sure, let's do it. So we have the two beds here, right? And the other thing is Danny, he's old school. He didn't drink water. He really didn't like to drink water. I go, like, you don't drink water? I go, we're like big bags of hairy water. I go, you should be drinking. What's wrong with you? I don't like water. But then I had to show him and tell him like that. So let's show him the information. So every time I see him now, he goes, you went to carry water. Oh, look at him. I'm drinking water. I'm drinking water. Right? Because I had to tell him, there's 5 different waters. You got, still got these waters. But anyways, so we're in there. So we start wrestling in between the beds. Right? We're wrestling. I'm trying to show him some. And all of a sudden we hear a knock at the door. Ding, ding, mate. And she opens up the door. And we pop our heads up, and the next leg goes, oh, and walks out.
What did she walk in on?
And I just said, whatever. We had to walk out there like the walk of shame. Exactly. She might tell all the maids that me and her were up to something. Yeah, that was something.
Not everybody can say that they wrestle with this Inosanto between two beds.
It's just like we just both popped our heads up out of the bed at the same time.
That's classic. That's classic. I love it.
I got all kinds of stories about.
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, we are just an hour into this, and I can't even. I can't even wrap my mind around all of this. I mean, but listen, what a beautiful life. It has to feel good about one, meeting all these people, two, interacting and being part of this community and this evolution of fairly new sport that it's just starting to grow. Like Gary and I, we talked about this recently. Can you imagine what jiu-jitsu will look like 100 years from now? I mean,
who knows? Well, it's going to evolve. Just like Danny told me, Danny, when I would travel, goes, just like his art, it's going to be good for the next 15 years. When this is about 15, 20 years when I was doing the seminar, and he goes, jiu-jitsu is going to take it for a long time, 15, 20 years, and something else is going to come along. And it has, And it has. I believe it when I was like, you're out of your mind. But yeah, of course. Now everything evolved. I started surfing when they didn't have a leash and no wetsuit. Now people are wearing wetsuits and leashes and all the other stuff. And it makes you, you can do more positions and stuff. When you have a leash, you can do more tricks and stuff. Back in the day, you couldn't. You just had to swim it. Right. So just like jiu-jitsu, now they got videos and they got all this stuff that's going out. And, back then it was like their secret, it was like, thank you for giving me that little tidbit. Now there's all this stuff. And some of it's just a little too crazy. I watch some of their stuff and go, that ain't going to work. I'm even on a white belt or blue belt and, teach us crazy submission holds. And, you don't see those things in the UFC fighting. They just come up with this crazy. I think they're smoking a little bit too much. But also, I met Carlos Gracie Sr. Actually, I was very fortunate to meet this little man at Keegan's mom's house in Brazil. I wish I could have took a picture with him. We didn't have cameras back then. There's like 3 things I wish I should have had. There's a picture with Carlos Gracie Sr. at his mom's house. He was 95 years old, 93, excuse me. And we had a couple girls with us, and he still had that vigor. He just watched us. I could see it in his eyes, right? He died on my birthday, October the 7th, right? And it was an honor. I wish I had a picture of him. And then, I wish I would have came up with a tap out before tap out did, because I was doing it before, right? And I wish I had a picture of the toes with my hand standing above him, but he got mad and kicked the can and ran off. So anyway, but
if you look at If you look at your entire jiu-jitsu life or jiu-jitsu journey, and you had to pinpoint, first of all, it's so rich that I still have a hard time wrapping my mind around all this. But if you had to pick the one moment, the one day, the one event that was the most impactful to you personally, is there one?
Well, what do you guys think? I'm going to ask you guys. What do you think? What do you think? Out of the ones I told you, I met Carlos Richard Sr. But what do you think was the most impactful time? What do you think?
Oh, that's a good
you guys
one. He threw it right back at us.
Yeah, he did.
I say Rickson, the first day when you met Rickson, when he told you to wrestle with him.
See, I don't know. I'm thinking it's more Rigan, right?
Is it?
In the driveway, maybe talking about opening the school. Yeah. There you go.
Right there.
I was right for
That's
once.
it,
I was right.
That. Because, yeah. I mean, it was, Rickson and stuff like that. It was, but I didn't know Rickson. I just thought he was just some guy that did karate, little bad ears, looked tough. And I go, I'm going to have my handful with him. But then like Brazilian Georgia guy, I could probably take that guy, he's taller, I'm littler, and we did it, I was a white belt. I didn't get a chance to train with a Brazilian George, and George is a good guy, actually, but we met as purple belts at one time, and I just got my purple belt. He called me, because that's how it was. These guys, the Brazilians would love to kick your ass, And when I got my purple belt, George called me up. Hey, I heard you got your purple belt. Come over to Rigan School. Let's train. And I trained, and I think I tapped him out like 3 times. He was pissed, super pissed, right? And he goes, I've just been sick. I'll get you next time. So he called me like 2 weeks later. We went at it again. I made him tap twice. The Brazilians, and all of them. The Brazilians are tough, good people, but they don't respect you. You're not friends with them unless you could beat them. Back in those days. I mean, you had to have to do something like that. I made a lot of good Brazilian friends, and some not so good. But. I wouldn't change it for the world. I've been very fortunate to live where I'm at, and and grew up in the South Bay by the beach, surfing and training and all that stuff. And got jiu-jitsu, and the Gracies moved here in this area, and been very blessed with that.
Life is good, huh? Life is good.
Yeah, most of the time.
Most of the time.
Yeah.
Listen, before we start wrapping this up, what we do at the end of each episode is we have a question for you from a previous guest. But they have no idea that you will be answering the question. They completely asked it in blind. And Gary's going to take a lead on this, but always creates an interesting ending.
So this is from John Frankl, and he wants to know, what were your goals on day one when you first started training, and how have they changed over the years?
Oh, I can say that. I can answer that. His goal was to beat up Rickson Gracie.
Right, yeah.
Never. Oh, never. You can't. There's points where you never could do that. And that's disrespectful. I have an older brother who used to beat the crap out of me all the time. And I got 3 other brothers that are black belts. One's a purple belt. And I had a brother just get mugged, actually. And I'd like to tell, I don't want to hear from the story, but the impact, I just wanted to get to a purple belt. I was happy. I didn't think I could afford, because jiu-jitsu was expensive. I had other things to take care of, but just to get to a purple belt was a good enough fighter for me.
Why purple belt? I'm curious. Many individuals say this. Why purple belt? Why not blue? Why not brown?
Well, it's just, back then it was just hard to conceive, think that you're going to get to that black belt like that, and I just like, when you're a blue belt, in the art, I would say, you just know enough to get your ass kicked. You're getting your ass kicked out when you're a blue belt. So purple belt, you kind of can start beating for people. You got a little bit of a game. So that's why. I just think, just getting to a purple belt. Then you get to brown belt, you get to really hone on your position, and then black belt, you get straight from the bottom top. Because when you're a small guy, I was a wrestler more, so I tried to stay on top. In wrestling. But eventually you have to learn the guards. So you either go from, white belt, you're strong, and then you get to blue belt, and then you start working on your weaknesses. And then you go to purple belt, I think, and then you start getting good at a little more submission, and then you brown belt, you get really good, because I think I fear a lot of brown belts more than I fear black belts when it comes to my school. Here's why.
Let's hear it.
Trying to get to the finish line. They're really trying to get to that black belt. People that pass that black belt, they kind of get, I got my black belt, I got there now. The brown belts, they got to get to that black belt. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. We actually talked about this a few times. It's like unfortunately, many do consider that black belt as a finish line. I achieved all of it, and they kind of relax behind it, and there's not much of the drive, versus the brown belt is the hunger to really continue learning. Would you agree with that?
Yes. Yeah, I believe it. But, I want you guys to, I started this thing called Black Belt Legacy, right? I got a couple of things, Black Belt Legacy.
Nice.
And it's, you got blackbeltlegacy.com, right? And it kind of, it's kind of like a network where you can look up who you are. So you're very legitimate, blackbeltlegacy.com, because, it's still kind of, like my coach Higan and me, I have guys saying that they're one of my black belts. Higan gets that once in a while. He's one of my black belts. So if you get online, he can kind of tells you exactly why he's doing it and why we're doing it. Because, I'm a 6-stripe black belt, right? And when I got my blue belt, I don't remember the dates, right? When I got my purple belt, I don't remember the dates. When I got my brown belt, I don't remember the dates. I kind of know when I got my black belt, after the Pan Am 95, which they don't say too much about it on the records. But there was a Pan Am 95, and I got it sometime in July when they had the party for me, right? And so now every 3 years you get your second birthday, you get your stripes, and it's hard. I have 30 black belts, and it's kind of hard to keep track of them all, right? You have brothers and sisters, it's hard to track your birthdays. So tracking your black belts when it's time for their stripes, it's very hard, right? You get it? So, it will come down like, hey, Higan, it's been, my 3 years. Can I get a stripe? Or can I get a certificate? And let's go out to lunch or do something, it's okay, but I think there should be a better way of doing it. I thought about that. And so every 3 years, if you get on it, just give us your email, and then we'll kind of find out who you are. It kind of goes Carlos Gracie. On my tree, it goes Carlos Gracie Sr., Carlos Gracie Jr., Rigan Machado, and then me. Then it goes, Helio and his brothers down this way. And you just kind of follow that tree, and then we can internet, it's kind of like a Wikipedia that I'm trying to get together, and yeah, and then when I was with Higan a couple of weeks, it's been longer than that, about 5 months ago, I was with Eric Paulson and Higan, and Eric goes, hey, I'm going to take a private with Higan. You want to be my partner? So I said, sure. We went down and we did a little work with Higan for a while. But Higan started bringing up where the Kimura came from, where the triangle came from, where the bear ball, all these things started progressing. Just like from surfing, no wetsuit to a wetsuit, then a leash, and then you can do this and that. So it's like a story that Higan had, and it's amazing what he said. So we're trying to make an encyclopedia about it too. So if you get on, you can get your name, and you can be with this, and you can be from blue to purple, brown, be under your coach's name. You can do videos, you can talk to each other. You guys can lose contact with, and it's just starting. We're just starting to get it going. It's really hard to get this going. So
I think that's a phenomenal idea. As you are talking, I actually pulled it up. I think that's brilliant. There are so many different people, and the diversity of where everybody's going, what they are doing. It's almost like it's a mess.
Yeah, it's a mess, and it's legitimate too. Because I've contacted some guys that are black belts that I train with, and they're little guys, and they're old now, and they go train. They go, you're not a black belt. I am a black belt under Rigan Machado. I tell them about black belts. They sign up. Now they can see it that Higan says, yes, you are my black belt, and then yes, you are my black belt. And I have, we get shirts and stuff, and we're just getting it started. We can use any help we can to get it going. So.
That's phenomenal. I love that idea. I love it. So we'll make sure to post the link to that and all the other links in the show notes of this episode. So if you guys want to go check it out, Black Belt Legacy. I mean, please do. I mean, I'm browsing through it. There's some really cool videos from way back from '90s. Yeah,
and Higan's right there telling the story about why he's doing it. I mean, I got him, and and I make this Thr RŌL belt. You see this belt right here, you guys? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. This is my belt, and they put the tape around it. And after a while, you can see all the lines in it. They tear off after that and stuff. Yeah. So I came out with this belt. I heat press them, and so they don't tear, and they look really nice. You know what I mean? And they're just heat pressed. And I do when I do seminars, I wear this a lot of times and stuff. A little cleaner belt, and we have like T-shirts and keychains and stuff like that. So. Look it up, and we're just kind of getting it started.
Cool. That's phenomenal.
We'll make sure everybody hears about it.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yes. I love it. Yeah, all right. Well, besides that website, is there anywhere that people can find you? I mean, social media. Where are you present? If anybody wants to connect with you?
I'm very personal a lot of times. I have a little school in Hermosa Beach. It's about a half a block away from the beach. I got an ocean view, $1 million view. I got a little shower, it's small, and I teach privates, the semi-group classes. The COVID killed my business. I had like 50, 60 students at one time, then it went down to 2. Now I'm starting to build it back up. And, it's just South Bay Jiu-Jitsu at Hermosa Beach, and I teach privates and semi-privates, and I'm kind of done rolling hard with all the knuckleheads that come in.
There's those. There's plenty of those.
You don't know how many people I've seen through jiu-jitsu. I got so many crazy stories of people.
Do people still want to do challenges with you all these decades later?
I get them. I get people that, they even the guys that are under me, they still come and try to challenge me and stuff. And I just say, get in line with the rest of them. I go, after 50, I'm done, and then I'm 60 and they just, when I was in the prime of my life, I was kicking your ass. Now, okay, I'm older. Stop it. Stop it. Okay, I don't want to go to the masters and fight in the masters. I want to fight in the adults. That's how I felt,
Yeah.
It's for me.
Listen, I'm with you there. Yeah.
Listen, but jiu-jitsu has been good to me and everything else. So, yeah.
Do you, last final question.
Yeah, whatever.
Have you ever thought about your life without jiu-jitsu? Like, fundamentally, if that one day where you met Rickson and that led into meeting, everybody else one by one, including Rigan, if that didn't happen, what would your life look like? Well,
I'm a firm believer. If you don't go, you don't know. So I went. I said, let's do it now. So I went, and I believe if you don't go, you don't know, and it's been a big thing.
Good for you. Good for you.
And so jiu-jitsu is like the fountain of life. It keeps you, healthy and happy and strong. And, what was I going to tell you? A lot of people get injured, as you get older in jiu-jitsu, and you guys probably have shoulder problems and all that kind of stuff. And I really believe if, you got to baby it for a little while, but if you got a frozen shoulder and stuff, I don't like taking aspirin even. I'm going to make a book pretty soon. It's called Pain and Ice. I got the domain. They want me to write a book on my story because pain and ice are your best friends. You get it? Pain tells you to stop. If you're really sore, you ice it. You don't take aspirin. You really ice that son of a bitch, right? So what was kind of getting lost with my thought now, but what was I saying? Yeah. So, your joints, I had a frozen shoulder for like 2 years. I almost started giving up wrestling. I just every time, and I thought I was from falling down on my shoulder all the time, falling. I could barely be push-ups, and I was wrestling with one arm all the time. But I had someone come to me and said, you got to start working that shoulder. You got to break it up. And I it's kind of like for the last 3 or 4 years, I wasn't wrestling, but the last 2, I've been reborn again because my shoulder is 100, pretty much 98% perfect. So it still kind of hurts once in a while, but for all you guys that give up, you just pretty much told me, what cartilage is, cartilage, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cartilage. What is cartilage, you guys? What does it do? What's the cartilage in your joints? What does it do for you?
It's like the shock absorbers, right?
Yes. And what else?
That's all I got.
So, you see, I kind of, if you look at it microscopically, it's like a sponge.
Yeah.
You get it? And so the more you move it, the more it starts secreting oils in those stiff joints. You get it? And I used to look at Tai Chi on that track, but I understand why they do Tai Chi now. Full body movement. So he gave me this little baton, and I could barely swing it. I could barely swing my shoulder because I was baiting it the whole time. I didn't want to get surgery. I said, I'm just going to live with it. I don't believe in the surgery because if I took every doctor's advice, I'd probably be looking like Frankenstein right now, all the injuries I've had, And so I just barely could move it. But after a couple of days, it was starting to break it up, move it. It took me about a month. And after a while, that thing swung like this. And I freaking, she's better than any girl.
That's all right.
I'm getting excited.
You are.
Don't knock it down.
That feeling. When it wants my shoulder, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we're good.
Yes.
We're good.
You guys hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear us?
Did you lose
I
you?
can't hear you.
Uh-oh.
Hey, Jeanette. Jeanette. Let's see. Okay, hold on. I think I just hit the cord, Jeanette. There, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, there you go. I started swinging that thing. I started moving it, and I've gotten back into jiu-jitsu. Kind of started me because I was kind of quitting for a little while and saying, I'm just too injured. But it really will, just by moving and doing high steps and your hips start getting sore and stuff like that. But if you really start to sit in place and move your joints like Tai Chi, it will come back. I swear, So some of those guys that are giving up jiu-jitsu, I hear all my guys, I can't do it, my shoulder, my knee and stuff. Like, just kind of work through the pain for a while and really start doing your squats a little lower, start moving your hips more. And it will kind of like a sponge that if you don't use it, it dries up on the wind of the cell, with a sponge. But if you start lubricating it, eating avocados, meat, fat, oils, if you're just eating a diet of lemon juice and white meat, you don't got there's no oils to lubricate your body. You get it? You know, you lose that weight, but if you really start like animal fat, avocados and stuff, it just starts secreting in my shoulder. And it's kind of like a reborn, you know, jiu-jitsu again.
That's what we said earlier. Keep moving, right?
You got to keep moving and you lose it.
Yep.
That's it. I love it.
Okay, anything?
Listen, we appreciate the last hour or so of stories, wisdom, experience, and all that. So
how long has it been? How long have you gone for?
We've been going for an hour and a half.
Hour and a half.
Cool.
This might be the longest episode we've done. So
good, because I want to keep you guys, because you guys said, you know, we'll go for an hour unless we're having a good time. And I know I can show you guys.
There you go.
Well,
just like you showed Dan in between the two beds.
Right on. Let me tell you one last thing.
Yes, sir.
It's very easy because I'm getting grayer, you know, and this is, I got in a fight with this young Mexican about 3 months ago. I was coming out the freeway and he was driving on a little scooter. You know how those guys are on those electrical things. They just don't have no regards for stop signs, you know, just blowing through stop sign. I cut him off. Well, he starts screaming at me in my car. I wish my window wasn't rolled down that much so I could hear what he was saying. You know, it was down a little bit. So he's screaming, he's calling me old man because I have gray hair, old man this, old man that. And I said, you know, why don't you slow down? Just slow down. I'm sorry. But he kept saying that. And I said, you know, the F word back to him, blah, blah, blah. And I drove off. And when I drove off, he threw something at my car, right? And so I went down the road, turned off, and I got out of my car, right? Got out of my car, went to look at my car, you know, because here in California, I'm not sure if you get out of a car, it could be a felony to fight with somebody. You know, it's like a big deal now. You can't just have road rage. So I got out of my car and I thought he went this way. And when I was looking at my car, I got up and he came back and goes, you know, hey, old man, you know, get in the car before I beat your ass. Get out of it. And I just looked, you know, I had my back to him. I turned around and I called, well, you know, you threw something at my car, dude. And he just threw his backpack down and stuff and he came at me. Just attacked me. And he had no regards. He's like a big kid. And after I got him on the ground, he told me to stop hitting him in the face a few times. I let him up. And then once I let him up, he came out, we had a big, but I beat him up. Then he wanted to call the cops on him, you know? And I said, dude, you started this. I go, when I was your age, you get your ass kicked and you go home. You know, he goes, well, I got bruises on my face and, you know, and I'm calling the cops and he got my number. The cops, and he kind of took off because he knew he was wrong because I said, dude, I'm 60 years old. You started everything and you're going to get senior, you know. And then I look at a little tattooed on his eye like this, a little, you know, the gang stuff, you know. And I said, you know, why don't you put another one on here and go wham, call the police, and you know that. And then he finally took off and said they're not coming, right? But he circled back around. He thought I was going to leave, and I was going to, but I waited. And but the thing I'm trying to come at, as we get older, we're the prey now. You see, when you're young and strong, jiu-jitsu is great, but now when getting older, more people are going to put us at prey. You know what I mean? So it's better. It's very easy to be young and strong and healthy, but it's very hard to be old and strong. You get it? And still keep it. Because he made my day because I've been waiting for a young punk like that to come at me. And I got to kick his ass. I go, you don't know how good that felt. I've been waiting for this forever, actually.
I hope he finds out who you are someday. Like, not where you are, but who you are, and be like, oh, okay. That's why I got my ass kicked.
Yeah, it was just amazing. You know, that's what I'm saying. So be careful as we get older. You need the jiu-jitsu now as you're older, as we get older, actually. You know, because you never know. It just comes at you. And that guy had no regards for me. He just came and if I didn't know my jiu-jitsu in particular, I'd probably be in the hospital. I'd probably beat the hell out.
So what are you saying? We shouldn't cut you off?
Oh, keep going. You guys, I know you probably got to get your girlfriends or whatever. You know, have a beer. Actually, I'm sober now. I'm a year and 9 months, actually.
Oh, congratulations. That's phenomenal.
Good for you.
Yeah,
that's great.
I can surf more. You know what kills surfing? Drinking at night.
I'm sure you don't get up in the morning, right? Yep.
Yeah. I used to surf all the time. And now that COVID kind of, you know, everybody was kind of drinking and I was kind of, you know, I was losing my business and probably a lot of jiu-jitsu guys were doing that kind of stuff, but mine survived and I'm still here and it's doing a lot better now. So
that's awesome.
Love it.
Fantastic.
Good for you. Gary, we need to
go to college. You guys have school?
Yeah.
This gentleman does. Yes.
Yeah, we are. You know, the classes are going on behind this wall. You might hear a little bit of it, but it's happening there. But Gary, maybe we need to make a trip to California and do a couple privates. Where you
for
think?
sure? Let's go.
That would be phenomenal.
Let's go.
That would be phenomenal.
We'll look you up.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Well,
Let's wrap this.
Legacy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's wrap this up for today. Once again, we do appreciate your time. We appreciate the stories. And I mean, what a phenomenal time just listening to you and sponging some of the history and some of the experience that you've done or you've had in the past.
Thank you for listening to RŌL Radio. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to leave us a review and help us make the show even more amazing. For future episodes, check out our website and follow us on all major podcast platforms. Take care.